Hi, everyone. I'm Taris. I'm here with Juji, Kim, Lee, and Sheira. We are 5 friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups, coming together to offer healing and inspiration. We want you, our audience, to get to know each of us a little better through our struggles, triumphs, and the lessons we've learned along the way. Sheira, we're continuing with your conversation.
Yes.
We left off, you were kidnapped off to Israel by your mom, if I could say that. Now all of a sudden you're back in America, but maybe I missed something. How did your dad get you guys back here? Like, how did you get back to America?
Yeah, so it was, I guess 3/4 of the year into living in Israel. Obviously, my parents were communicating through aerograms and the occasional phone call that sounded like you were talking to Pluto. But my mom decided to go back to America. We were still in school, so my grandmother, my Safta, came to stay with us for a couple of weeks while my mom and dad, I guess, tried to reconcile. And they had a conversation, and the net of that conversation was, my dad cannot come to Israel to move his business because A, he doesn't speak the language, B, he had an accounting practice there for years. Like, you can't just like I'm not really sure what my mom was thinking. I just knew she had such a yearning for us to experience Israel or be raised there. So my mother had to make a decision. Do I want my children to be raised in Israel, or do I want my children to have a father? And she opted for father. I'm very grateful for, because I was always super close to my dad. And she came back and she sat us down and she said, you're going to finish out the school year and then we're going back to New York. And I remember being so excited. And so we finished out the school year, and that's when I really just full stop, like, became a little Israeli kid. Like, I was talking to my siblings in Hebrew. Like, that's how, ingrained we were in the culture. And I will never, ever, ever forget the day we were on our way to the airport, and we kept looking at each other, my siblings and I, we're going to see Daddy today. We're going to see Daddy today. Like, oh my God, we're going to see Daddy today.
After a year, right?
Little over a year. Yep.
That's fucking crazy.
And there I am in JFK, and we're looking and we're looking and we're looking. And then I see him, and I'm like, oh no. And he had little Yankee Doodle cupcakes and orange juice, which don't really go together, but those are like some of my favorite things. And he just hugged us and didn't let us go for like, I don't know, like 10 minutes, like, not even kidding.
And what did your mom do at that time? Like, was she angry? Was she happy? Was she like...
You know what? I think for a couple of years there, they really tried to make it work. And yeah, we moved. We moved from my childhood home in Valley Stream to like I was saying before, a much more, wealthy neighborhood, and they put me in private school, and that was really difficult for me, really difficult. You have to understand, I came from a culture where it was just like, you're playing outside all day, and you have nothing, and you're playing with peach pits and all these games. And now I'm going to a school where people literally get driven up to school in a limousine.
Oh my God, peach pits! You're taking me back.
Go-going, remember go-going?
Yes, I remember. I'm sorry. So, go ahead.
and now I'm
on a school
bus behind a limousine where my friend Cheryl is being taken to school. Like, can you imagine the culture shock? It wasn't even like going to public school. It was like going to a super duper uber private school. Anyway.
Where was that school, Sheira?
In Lawrence, in the 5 towns.
Oh, okay.
So I had a really hard time. It ended up being okay. I was there for 4 years, and then I went to public school for high school, because I think we all rebelled. We were like, yeah, no more of this. Can't do any more of this. And then so I had to change again and go to a brand new school where nobody knew me. I mean, my twin sister and I. So like a lot of new, feeling like you don't belong, having to make your way. Now look, that's what makes a horse race, right? Like, you know what you're worth if you can make it happen, like starting over all these times, just constantly starting over in like massive ways. High school was amazing for me, and so was college. I really blossomed and flourished and kind of came into my own, but I always had this like people-pleasing underlying thing in me that I wasn't that aware of. Because I'm such a peacekeeper and such a friend and such a cheerleader, I didn't realize until much later in life that this people-pleasing mechanism of wanting people to approve of you and be with you and accept you, all of that stuff I needed to do for me and was not. And it really made me, I struggled because of it.
Sheira, how did you become a people pleaser? Was it your mom? Were you always trying to please your mom? Because it doesn't sound like you had to please your dad. It sounds like your dad was just full of love.
Yeah. No, my mom went through she had a really, really hard childhood. And I think she was also emotionally abused, mentally abused. So, you know that saying, like, you can't give away what you don't have inside. I'm sure that on some level, as a teenager, I wanted to be close to my mom. Like, I would always hearken back to, like, the Brady Bunch and kids who I saw in school who had really close relationships with their mom. And I never felt understood. I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel understood. I was really frustrated. And I remember being like 15 years old saying, if I'm ever blessed with a daughter, I'm going to do it differently. And I'm sure a lot of us say, I'm going to parent differently if I have a kid.
Oh yeah, totally.
But you all know that I have a daughter and I have a phenomenal relationship with her. But it took me a long time to get over that resentment for my mom, because I didn't have compassion for her when I was a teenager. I was just like, just be my mom, you know? It wasn't until later that I realized that she went through a lot of hell, and that shapes who you are. And by me being resentful, oh, here comes another quote. Resentment is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. And when I'm literally siphoning like a bunch of years into a few sentences, but when I tell you I had resentment, like I couldn't really even look at her when I was talking to her. I just felt so much, like, just listen to me, you know?
Was it the energy, or was it the way that she talked to you? Was it, because I feel like that all circles with people pleasing. Like you just wanted to please your mom. You wanted to shake her. You wanted to please her. So
yes. And in some ways, my marriage ended up mirroring some of that, because look, we're all subconscious machines walking around. Like, we're human beings, but we're also storing a lot of information in our subconscious. And so when I think about my dad and that year in Israel and how, you know, I know he couldn't come to Israel, but even after that, seeing him in the marriage of my parents, he was the passive one. You know, he was always like, it'll get better. And, you know, I'll just do this and it'll get better. Like, kind of not seeing the light.
Yeah.
And so I really clearly, so clearly now see how I've taken certain elements of both of those characteristics and then wove them into what would become my marriage. I have an incredible capacity to focus on the good.
Hey,
Like,
Sheira.
literally.
Yeah. Is there a relation to your feelings for your mom that you developed later on or before you realized how she had such a hard life? Was there some kind of a connection to the kidnapping? How did that impact you? Like later on, when you finally got reunited with your father, was there animosity?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I can almost look at like before teenager and after teenager. I think that before teenagerhood, my mom was, you know, very nurturing, always music in the house. Music's a big part of my life. And then when I became a teenager and started to pull away, both my twin sister and I, and the fact that we were so close to my dad, I think there was this struggle there, because my parents their marriage was not good. So for him, to see all of this attention and love that we were getting, that she wasn't, there may have been some jealousy there, some insecurity on her part. I'm just speaking from what I see. You know, I've spoken to her since, because I ended up recreating that in my marriage. Hello. Yeah, I think the resentment was really more about not being heard, and then finally coming to the understanding that she wasn't raised that way. Like, she doesn't have the capability to necessarily to do that, to do what I needed for her to. It's much better now. Like, I can have conversations with my mom and bring certain things to her attention. It's so, and I can look her in the eye. And then I think about, yeah, go ahead, Juge. I was just going to say, because I want to bookmark the fact that I ended up doing work with mother and daughter empowerment because of all of these.
Too.
Oh, really? Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen you interact with your daughter. It's like a joy to watch the two of you together. I've heard you on the phone with her. You're so excited every time she calls you. And I know that your program was all about, bringing mothers and daughters together. So like, this set the stage and the pendulum swung the other direction. So you created this program so that mothers could learn to be closer to their daughters. So what is the basis of that? Like, what did you learn through that relationship?
Relationship with my mom, you mean?
Oh, with Aiden, actually.
Oh, with Aiden, yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm becoming the person that I'm meant to be in the world. I feel like I'm, some people sadly, live their whole life and die never having sort of this awareness. And I'm so grateful for it. I think Aiden saw me in insecurity a lot. There's a lot she didn't know also about what I was going through, but I feel like, I belong to this group where there's this reading every week. And I had such a light bulb moment last week about one of the readings that we read every week, but it said that people who have dealt with certain things like I've dealt with have an overblown sense of responsibility to other people and not enough to themselves. And when I think about that now, I'm like, hell yes, like to such an unhealthy degree. I feel like my dad was like that, always had to like fix and do and calm and peace and work. And he just always had to like keep his shit together. And he probably would have benefited from, falling apart here and there. But I feel like having that aha moment about resentment and how unhealthy it was for me, and honing my compassion skills to be more compassionate to my mom and seeing her good stuff, like the music, and we always made her laugh. Like she's fun. My mom's like really fun and spontaneous and adventurous. I wanted to create this program that I feel like the mother-daughter bond is so, so critical to the world. I mean, I'm getting like all kumbaya on your ass right now, but like, I really believe that when mothers can translate certain empowerment skills, like know who you are and stand in your truth and be authentic and be that nurturing soul that you are, and do what makes you feel alive. I think there's just so much opportunity there for the world to blossom, because we need more women in leadership roles and making decisions about companies and countries and all of that. So my hope is that, and really the Motivate program that I put together is really all of those 8 skills, MOTIVATE, is everything that I needed to learn. Like I put it together and it was like, I was like, oh yeah, this feels natural, this feels right. It's all about your relationship with yourself. And I didn't have such a great relationship. I did to some degree, but not fully. And my mom, I can still say, I don't know that she has such a great relationship with herself. But if we as human beings don't get that right, then all the other relationships kind of suffer a little bit.
Yeah. And Sheira, I love how you were talking about how once you had that awareness and once you had these aha moments, because one of the common denominators that I've been hearing in all of our stories is really, truly the change and the shifts began, and it's only can begin when you have awareness of what it is that's happening, and you can put it into words and you can describe it, and you start to realize the way that you are being with it or acting. And so sometimes with all of these things happening, it's like you can't necessarily go back and change anything, obviously, but what you do from today on, right? With so many things that you started to discover.
Well, one of the big, huge days, and I remember the date because it was 20 years ago. It was May 3rd of the year 2000. And I had one of the biggest light bulb satori, the Japanese for sudden awakening. I had just read my first personal development book. It was You'll See It When You Believe It by Dr. Wayne Dyer.
Oh, yeah.
That book, I was reading it and I was just like, I just kept thinking about other people and how it could help them. Like, oh yeah, my mother, and oh, my husband, and that one. And I remember the next morning, it was May 3rd, I was sitting in my kitchen, and I'll never forget this day. I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden I went, oh my God. It was like a ton of bricks was lifted off my shoulders, and I realized that it's all about me. It's not about my mom. It's not about anybody. It's about me. And I felt so like light and airy. And it was a really good awakening. And that high that I got from it sort of stayed with me for a few weeks. And then certain things start, come, like reality comes back in, and you start, but I've had epiphanies like that along the way. And the last really huge one was about a year ago, when I had clarity beyond clarity, not just about what I was allowing. And I love that word, by the way. Just want to spend 2 seconds on that word.
Yeah.
I realized this recently, that allow kind of has like two sides of the coin, right? There's I'm not going to allow you, what am I allowing people to do to me? And then there's also this more spiritual, like, allow things to unfold. Like, stop wanting it to happen by this date, by this time, in this way. Like, and that all starts here. It all starts here, and it all starts here. And when this and this align, like, I was starting to finally understand that. I'm like, my heart's saying one thing, but my mind is going, you can't leave your marriage. You can't leave. Like, you don't do that. That's crazy. But I had a moment, and I have to share this with you, right before the clarity came. I'm probably going to cry. I had an argument with my ex. We were in the kitchen. I was so distraught. I just was like, we're going to California. I don't know what's going on. The house is being packed up. I was like, so I went up to my room, and I literally plopped backwards on the bed, and I cried for a half an hour, like hysterically crying. And the tears were just like, my hair was getting wet, and I was just a freaking mess. And I kept saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And I kept saying, I don't know what to do. And then all of a sudden, I was like wiping the snot away, and I was a total mess. And I just changed the words, and I just said, I do know what to do. I do know what to do. I do know what to do. And then I was like, I just sat up in the bed, and I'm like, I still didn't know what I was going to do, but I was like, I do know what to do. And I felt so much better, because the crying and the reaching, like just reframing everything. And
I have chills.
The next day, the clarity came. The next day.
It was like you let go of.
It's like, fucking trust yourself, Sheira. You know what to do. You've always known what to do. You just allowed too much people pleasing, and what do they think? And like, but you don't realize while you're doing it. You don't realize while you're doing it. And it's just such a liberating, free, coming out of the darkness, coming out of the shame. Everybody goes through shit. You go through shit, Sheira. I always had to kind of keep everything together. My life is okay. But when you realize that you're hiding behind, like Oz behind the curtain, it's just incredibly liberating. And I'm so glad I got to experience my life now as an adult, especially with you guys. And so many of my other like really close people who I didn't come clean with. I didn't come clean with myself. And so that's been an amazing part of my journey. And all of my music is reflecting that now. Like all of these songs that I've been writing over the last few years, it's like really amazing.
Sheira, I relate to you so much. Like, I know in our friendship, I've always said to you, like, we just were like the same person.
Yeah.
I, like you, we've both talked about our experiences with having bad relationships, toxic relationships, people who don't, people who we like to please, the people pleasing factor, everything, relationship with, we used to have a bad relationship with money and people and with ourselves. And I just relate to so much that you're saying. And I there's so many people out there that experience these things. And I want so badly for them to gain awareness and like to get there, because it feels so much better when you get there. And I know that it's out of my control, But like, I don't know, is there any, it's so easy for people to say, well, you shouldn't feel that way. You shouldn't feel that way. You shouldn't, whatever. There's no shoulds. It's like people need hows. How can they help themselves if they're people pleasers and they're feeling responsible for the world? Like, how can we help them? Like, what's one how? Like, what would you, anything you could suggest that
I'm a really big believer, especially now, in affirming things, right? Because I really believe, and look, if you don't believe in God or a higher power or the universe or anything like that, that's okay. I just think it helps to do that when you look at the world and the miracle that we're all living in, not right now, although it probably is a miracle right now. But I do believe that when you affirm something, even before you know it to be true, if you keep getting yourself to a place of believing in something, and sometimes it takes years, you will get there. You will get there. You have to, how you see yourself is way more important than how, you can't get into someone else's head. You don't have a key and going, oh, what are you thinking in there about me? Like, you don't freaking know. We make all kinds of assumptions about what people are or are not thinking about us or how they're perceiving us. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And sometimes it takes for you to go through a lot of hell and people pleasing and covering up your shame. You can't, what you just said before is so true. Don't feel that way. No, do feel that way. Because when you feel that way, you can feel your way to the other side of it. You know what's wrong. You can't fix what's wrong. You can't make it right until you know what's wrong. Like really in your bones know what's wrong. So affirming for me and also having a creative outlet. I don't think there's a person on the planet that doesn't have a creative outlet, right? Whether it's could be cooking, could be gardening, could be songwriting, could be writing, could be art. Everyone's got that ability to. And you really need to just be more focused on yourself. You have to be focused on yourself, but not in a selfish way. More like asking yourself questions. What's going on here? What am I allowing? What am I affirming? What patterns do I keep recreating? Like something's got to give, And there's so much of me that I would never, ever change, but I like the skin that I'm in now because it allows me to be more authentic and connect, and also probably write some kick-ass freaking songs from here on in.
That's awesome.
Sheira, I have all the things that I want to say, but I think that like my two big takeaways from what you're talking about is, well, first of all, timing is everything. You can't rush the clarity, you can't rush the what have you, but also that like a lot of things that people perceive to be selfish before they start doing what they need to do for themselves turn out to be not selfish at all, because you are so much more able to take care of other people because you're okay with yourself, because you're okay with where you are. And I see that so clearly with all of us. You take care of all of us, not in a people-pleasing way, but in a supportive way that feels genuine and wholesome. Like you're a mom, you're a mom to all of us.
Aww.
That's probably why you went last, because we needed mom to like put it all up in a nice bow. And I love my mom. She's amazing. And I love watching your, your relationship with your daughter unfold and your son and all of those things. But yeah, it's a journey for sure. And thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. I just wanted to say one last quick thing, and that is when you're so busy trying to get other people to see the light, it's like you're just shining the flashlight in all of these places thinking, oh, this'll change that and that'll change. Everything's just this external, dialogue. But when you take that spotlight and you go, a lot of people don't like to do that because it's like, oh, wait, I have flaws, I have problems, I have shame, but that's why we're here. That's why we're here. And that's why we're here, the five of us. I don't know what we've done without you guys this year. Seriously, I don't know what I would have done.
Well, Sheira, I know from here on in, I am definitely calling you mama. It's definitely time to wrap up.
Go to sleep right now.
It's definitely time to wrap up this episode.
Yeah.
I am so thankful, Sheira, for you sharing your incredible story with us. We have learned so much. I know certainly for myself, I have learned to trust my gut through you as another example. And it's amazing what we can uncover if we just stay open-minded and just allow our lives to happen.
Wow.
If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to let us know if you have any topic requests, questions by commenting below. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.